Well, this is dried. This is the next day. So I'm going to unclamp this thing. The wax paper worked like a charm. That popped right off. The glue still exhibiting that a little bit of gumminess underneath the wax paper. But stick comes off. That's good. So we've got a thing. It's a long ways from perfect. But it's glued back together. And we're going to like it like that. Be great. Get it installed. It'll be great. It'll be great. No new parts. Having a great time. I got the base back from the blacksmith, and he, without putting any more dents in it, pulled this end down, this leg down, and pulled this end of it in. Could have come in another 1/4 of an inch maybe, but what we got was the little feet sitting flat on the surface. No more rock. We're in great shape. The thing that I didn't know that there was even wrong with it, we've taken care of, and that's out of the way. And so now it's just finishing. I've got to obviously sand this and get a couple of coats of paint on it. I'm on a schedule. The thing that's most important is to get the wood parts all done. They're going to require like 4 days, 3 days in between each coat. No, 3 days of drying between coats, which will take me 4 days, which is going to press the project. That will be the thing that I have to get done every day, is get the next coat onto the wooden parts, which shouldn't be hard. I've got the splats done, the inside done, the backsplash, the pencil tray done. It's the lid and the seat is all that's left of the wood parts. I'm pretty sure I can get the lid and the seat cleaned up today and get a coat of shellac on, first coat of shellac on everything. And that'll start the sequence. Then I'll get back to the metal parts. Haven't picked out any paint yet, but I think I'm going to go with the same kind of semi-sweet chocolate brown. And we'll see where it goes. Well, I power sanded the seat, and just want to go around and make sure I got the edges. Power sander, you know, orbital sander. Random orbital sander does a pretty nice job, and you can tip it a little bit and get into the little bit of a scallop that they put in the seat. I didn't bear down in too many places. There's some little stains. Do a little, you know, sanding touch up. Otherwise, it's just a couple of pieces of maple glued together. But it came alright. I got most of the finish off. It's a funny thing about finish. Got a splat here. This is the top crest of the back. And you can see that there was a finish on before they assembled it, before that piece of metal got screwed to it. So this was finished as a piece and then installed, then put together as the table, as the desk. Yet there are other places where there's signs of dripping, which clearly, if you had the piece in your hand hanging from something, there wouldn't be any signs of dripping. So I kind of think that it was refinished once, or they put another finish on top. Imagine racing through a school, a little painting contractor racing through a school and, you know, lightly cleaning and revarnishing all of the desks in the classrooms, you know, 8 classrooms. It's during summer break. You don't have a lot of time, and you got to keep moving, and you got to be done. So they didn't take them apart, do each piece. They just did them whole. And what happens? And what happens is they end up with drips, just pouring over the edge, because the desk was together, and it doesn't open a lot. It just lifts up a ways. So they got these drips in it, which means that there's a finish on that was put on this stuff, maybe a colorant and a finish, and then you know, the age of grime, and then a coat of varnish on top of that, and then more grime. So it's kind of, when I'm sanding, I'm finding myself going through all of these. This has got that brown in it. This has got the grime in it. The little grooves have got pressed in grime and finish and grime and finish and colorant. I'm not going to get a uniform color, I guess is what I'm thinking, and I'm just going to trying to come to grips with it. But I think we'll tackle this thing next and see how we do on that. So there's this little composition bumper that they installed, one on each corner of the desktop, the lid, made out of some sort of, I don't know, vulcanized rubber. That's what it looks like. That's how it breaks. And in the center of it is a tiny, tiny screw. It's not a tiny screw, but it's a pretty small screw with a pretty thin slot. I just happen to have the right screwdriver. Take it out, and then I'm just going to jam this in there and pop that thing out, along with a teeny bit of wood that I chipped. I don't care. So now I'm going to need to find some sort of little rubber bumper that will set in that hole and cover it up and provide that little bit of a bump. This looks like some fabric, sort of like fabric impregnated with Bakelite, and then some sort of rubber on top of it. Had a little hole in it. We've seen these things before. They use them on chairs. Alright, well, I have to find two of those. Save the screws. This is the lid of the desk. It was kind of all brown. I kind of got a feeling I could see what it had been like when it was originally made. They to try to unify all of the different wood together to make it look all one, uniform color. They did a brown across the whole of the inside, kind of like a Van Dyke brown, and then lacquered on top of that. This got no varnish coat from the refinishing, so it cleaned up pretty well. I took the brown off. I mean, most of it. I left obviously some. I want to have it look like there's some, some wear, some discoloration. I can't make this thing really brand new, perfect. Not interested. So getting it so that it tells a little bit of the story of I'm old and I've been sat in by 100 kids. And say, some of that through the variations in color and the little marks that they left in. Doesn't look like anyone carved their initials in it, which I'm just as happy. But a whole bunch of scratches, some artwork. This is probably going to have a variety of lines and scratches in it. But you notice this doesn't have that Van Dyke brown. This has just got an amber, like an amber from an amber shellac. Maybe it was refinished again also. Don't know much about the story of these things. I don't really know how school systems handle them. I know I've never gotten a job doing it, so I don't know how they ever do it. Because most of the time, most of my life, the school desks have been Formica. Anyway, so we'll get the corners a little bit, because that's using the orbital sander on the corners. It's hard to get your aim just right. So sand those up. But the rest of this I did with the orbital. It cleaned up pretty well. A little touch up. And be ready to try the top, which will be, that's the biggest part. I've had some experience with it now. I've seen what does happen. Maybe you won't make a tragic mistake on the top. That would be nice. But otherwise, this is bearing down on ready for first coat of shellac. I'm going to do a shellac, 2 coats of shellac. I love how the amber of the shellac affects the old, still, even sanded, it's still got old oxidized surface. Brings out a, you know, I like the redder, yellower, reddish tones. So that'll do a good job on that. It's an easy way to do it, easy material to handle, and it'll give me an opportunity to sand it a couple more times, and then a couple of coats of shellac, and then probably just rub on 1 coat of tung oil varnish. Just do a complete rub. I don't have a lot of time, and there's no point in having a hugely thick finish on this stuff. I guess in a sense I'm not trying to make this new again or restored. I'm just trying to make it, you know, clean and useful. Isn't that everybody's dream? Become clean and useful. Anyway, you'll see what it looks like when I attack this. You want to see, you know, first move. I'm not going to make you watch the whole of it. But. Anyway, it goes like that. I'll go across the thing like that, then try to go back over and get some sort of unification of color and depth. And moving the sander back and forth, I know it vibrates, but you get to see what you're doing, you get to spread out so you don't sand just in one place, and you get to get a view as to what you're attacking. Moving back and forth, you can, a little more there, and then a little more there. It's a way of metering what you're doing. Sanding. I'm sanding a very, very, very thin layer of the original paint, that sort of chocolate, light chocolate brown. There are some spots where when the people that revarnished got a little bit of varnish on the piece of metal here, and they're a little bit harder to get through. But for the most part, I'm just removing some of the paint, all of it in some spots, and most of it in others. I'm not trying to get rid of it all, that's not the point. I just want it smooth and get, you know, the grime off. I assume that whether it's bare metal or painted metal, the new paint will stick one way or the other to it, as well as it's going to. But if it's smooth, it'll have a better chance and provide a better finish. So, using 180 sandpaper, it gets dull pretty quickly, but it still does the job. It clogs, and you don't use it for long. But it does make it smooth. I mean, that's smooth. If smooth helps, that'll help. If paint sticks to paint, it'll be great. If paint sticks to bare metal, in some spots, that'll be great too. Putting an awful lot of faith in the old whatever, Krylon, Rust-Oleum, whatever I end up with. But I've had reasonably good luck for a woodworker. Anyway, getting the edges. Some places it's bare metal and I'm actually cleaning light rust off. All right. These people were in love with their metal forming, to raise up basically washers for the screws to go into, so they'd be safe for the kids who wouldn't catch their clothes. I mean, it's all good reason, but boy, didn't they love doing this stuff. Little research on the internet, and this company, American Seating Company, in Grand Rapids, I think, as I recall. During World War II, they made ammunition crates, parts for gliders. Their metal forming skills must have helped them making things that were light and strong. This is getting it. You know, it's like anything else like this. You don't know until you're done whether you've done enough, or until you put the coat of paint on, that you've done enough or not. I pulled a patent date off the contraption of the seat that makes it swivel, or allows it to swivel a little bit, not much. And it had a patent date of 1924 on it. This has a patent number. I could look it up. I'm probably not going to, but I'd say that this was, you know, obviously couldn't be made before 1924. So the guess is that this was made stylistically in the 20s. Probably, just guessing, probably before the Depression. So that probably, if that's the case, that kind of narrows it down. Anyway. Okay, so I'm down to a little bit more on the seat support. A little bit more on this. I got the perimeter of it. This is that patent date. Patent applied for. And then this is done. Then it's the base, the tubular base, which is already missing almost all of its paint. So I'm not going to touch it until I've got the finished paint in my hand, so that I don't have to worry about it rusting up. Like, I should be worried about this too. I'm thinking I'll go over this with some sort of solvent and steel wool before I paint it, just to get any grime that's left, places that I haven't quite sanded enough, or places where the sanding has just moved the grime from one place to another. I don't know what I'll use. People talk about using like brake cleaner, which rinses things, cuts the oil, and then evaporates. That sounds like a plan. Look at all the shapes that they put in this. Little crimps there where they pull that in, raise this up. This has got a bevel to it. One side faces forward, give the seat a little bit of a pitch. Seems kind of elaborate. Looking online at different seats, school seats that this company made over the years, they were highly innovative. This tubular construction comes right after, if anybody remembers, cast iron frames that held the seat and desktop. And cast iron, you know, heavy, brittle, lots of edges. And they came up with this tubular material out of pressed metal. They then later went on to actually using pre-made tubular steel and bending it. Then all of the different kinds of welding that was done on them for their structure. This one appears to be the welding in the seams of the tubular seat frame assembly appears to be gas welding, which makes sense in 1924. I don't know when arc welding first became available in an industrial setting, but I know that they were still riveting ships at the beginning of World War II, and they didn't start welding them until I think the Liberty boats were the first boats to be welded. That didn't always work out. So that all makes sense in terms of the gas welding. Now, make a little rinsing, and that should take care of that. This edge goes into the underside of the seat itself. Knocking them off. Knocking them off. This will be great. Get some crud off this. Give this a try. It's got a badge on it with a stamp in it. American Seating Company, Grand Rapids, Michigan. Oh well. Anyway, so some degriming, a little bit of flat sanding. I think I'll take some steel wool and denatured alcohol to the inside of this, and we'll see where that brings us. So I got some steel wool with some denatured alcohol, and I'm going to clean, the crud that was inside the lip of the desk and the bottom. Look at this. Look at this. Denatured alcohol, a little bit of steel wool, and it is dissolving the paint. And I have to say, I have no idea what it is I'm looking at. But that's pretty cool. I don't think I'd have ever thought that. I don't know what that makes this. I just don't know. Beyond my understanding. That sort of explains why it's so successfully thin and not really chipped anywhere. It's how to say it. I'm not happy with the way the finish looks, but it's not like it's really falling off, flaking off. It's just amazing. It's just dissolving it. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I mean, denatured alcohol is great stuff, but I wasn't thinking of that. Anyway, this is going to change the picture on the cleaning of the inside and the outside of the desk. Remarkable. Now, there's still some places where the rust is burned through, and I'm going to have to go over this all. But a whole lot more confidence in what I'm doing. And faster. This is going to be rapid. Fascinating. This is great. Denatured alcohol evaporates pretty quickly, so it's kind of a race. I got way too ahead of myself. But this would be great. I'm almost done. We'll see you in a while.